Hi, everyone. Welcome to Free Bird Spirit YouTube channel, and thank you for swinging by and hanging out with us today for Love is the Wisdom Behind Awakenings episode, I don't know,
22.
22. Holy cow. And so
22.
here we are. And I know we took a little sabbatical there, but we're pushing through, and here we are.
The Wounded Warriors, yes.
The Wounded Warriors, exactly.
Uh-huh.
And but there's a lot of stuff on the docket. There's a lot of things happening right now in our world, and we want to talk about it. You've been all reading about it, whether it's books being taken off the shelf of libraries and classrooms, or people not being able to dress up and read books to children, or anything like that. So that's what we want to talk about. When it first started, Chrys, it's like one of those things where you're like, okay, so is this really happening, or it's just isolated, and Abbott's a wackadoodle and doing this for whatever reason. But then all of a sudden it starts to spread, and I think there's over 230 bills out there to oppress people, oppress LGBTQ community at some level, and that's just for that. So then you look at the oppression of women that's happening right now, and how many bills are out there for that. I didn't look that one up, but so it's like spreading. Yeah. And you're hoping that it's going to just be isolated to Texas and Tennessee or whatever, but it's not. It's spreading.
Well, you got to add race into that too.
And race, yeah.
They're creating new versions of Jim Crow on top of that.
Yes.
So this is a real reversal. It's I knew there was going to be a backlash, after when the civil rights movement was quieting and things were changing, and the feminist movement, things were shifting, and then add to that the LGBTQ stuff and the marriage issues and all of that. And I thought, oh, this is nice. We're starting to really move into a more inclusive environment. And I kept saying, like when Obama got elected, I said to my students, if you think you saw racism before, wait for it. And it's really worse in many important ways. They're not hanging people from trees that we know of.
However, they are wanting to put that back into law, that it's okay to go ahead and lynch.
Right. It's just, yeah. So hoping, right? I mean, one of the things we learned is that when things are really bad, the door is open for the most creative social movements imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
Right? During the AIDS epidemic, here we were on the tail end of some of those other big social movements, and the AIDS epidemic happens, and Ronald Reagan takes office, and people started hunting gay guys, to hurt them, and so there was all that going on, and all of a sudden there was ACT UP, the movement ACT UP, and they laid their bodies down across the Lincoln Tunnel. It blocked traffic. Whoever thought of doing that? They laid their bodies down. And they also did a bleed-in at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. So they started doing really new, innovative ways of raising awareness. And what I keep trying to do now, once I'm reading this stuff, is saying, try and imagine new ways of acting, and it's got to be massive. So it made me think, so we should all wear clothing of that's opposite of what we usually wear. I mean, we should all the women should wear men's clothing, all the men should wear women's clothing, and we should have marches. Go ahead, rest us all.
100%.
When I was working at the airlines in the 70s, was the peak of the civil rights movement, and some of the African Americans in the office went down to Atlanta and got arrested, and they went to jail. And so they filled the jails up. They sat down in the places they weren't supposed to sit. They drank from the water fountains they weren't supposed to drink from. It's not the specific act. It's that it's a metaphor for how to react. We should have women marching through, what is it, Tennessee or Kentucky or Missouri or whatever state that was, that said no women can have bare arms. There should be hundreds of women walking through the public spaces with bare arms. I mean, it has to be that level to say to them, to say to the world, we're not going back. You can try, but we're not going back, and we're going to show you just how passionate we are about this. But that's one thing. But what you and I were talking about earlier, the other part of this is how to think about it. That's the piece we got to hold on to, and we got to keep repeating, which is that they say more about themselves than they do about us. They're more about, when I saw that article that the Catholic diocese was in Denver, was following the gay apps to see if any of the priests were on the gay apps. I mean, nice try, guys, but the pedophilia that you guys were guilty of years ago didn't have anything to do with being gay. Thank you. It had to do with the fact that celibacy is, whatever you're doing is not okay, and that you're preying on children is not okay, and that you're using this as a cover to prey on kids, period. Doesn't matter.
It's a hotbed, being priesthood, and that whole any type of pastoral type of position. It's a hotbed for people who are dealing and can't deal with their own issues within them. So it produces guilt and hate and anger and all these things. So they're like, so in order to cover that up inside themselves, they're like, I'm going to serve. If I put myself in this situation where I am a priest and I'm I have celibate, then I won't act out on these things that are inside me, my anger, my hate, my need to control, whatever it comes from. So you'll find, and it's, the statistics are very clear, and it's coming out more and more because hundreds of people in ministry and the priesthood are being arrested or brought up on charges for all these things. So it's almost like they're trying to let's say they're made of salt, but they want to look like they're made of a sweet, so they cover themselves with candy, right, to show, look, I'm a candy cane, I'm not a salt lick. So that's what they're doing in regards to their inner turmoil, and so they try to, so you'll find it, and it's being exposed and it's coming up, but yes,
I know, but
then they point, and then, but oh no, but don't dress like a man or don't dress like a woman if your born gender is
whatever that is. I mean, all you have to do is open up the New York Times fashion magazine on Sundays and see that whatever it is they think is cross-dressing is the new style and fashion. I mean,
right.
I went to a party and all the young people who were there had their heads shaved on the sides and wore pants that were like this wide, and you couldn't tell what their gender was. And you were like, oh, so this is the, okay, new style.
This is
right?
a new deal.
But
Yeah.
it's always been like that. I guess the piece that you and I've really talked about a lot, which is really when the more this stuff comes out, the more they say about themselves, the more insecure they are, and I can't help but think about Abbott, for example. What's the issue that he carries around personally that he needs to strike out at people to make them more disabled than he is?
Right. That's where it comes from, guys.
And it comes from learning to love yourself and forgive yourself and give yourself permission to be imperfect, to be challenged, to be someone who needs to work on those issues. I mean,
just think of the what I was just talking about, the statistics of those in some whatever ministry, because they can't face themselves. And so then they try to fix it by putting a Band-Aid on it, and it's not going to do it. It just puts you in more trouble because you have more access to kids or whatever it is going on there.
Yeah, well, there's that issue, but then the one that really bothers me a lot is the hubris that a lot of mostly white men have about controlling women's bodies, controlling women's
so then there's that. So there's,
and it just says to me, are you like fundamentally insecure because you don't give birth? What is that? Why do you feel the need? I mean, the control of abortion alone, it's not about abortion. You take that ability for healthcare away, and suddenly there are fewer women to compete with in the workplace.
mm-hmm.
Suddenly you can justify paying women less. Suddenly, pregnancy becomes something else. I mean, this is really about rolling it back so that they have control over jobs, over education, or all of that. And then there's what they're doing with education. I mean, it's a whole concerted plan. The stuff they're doing about education, and I see it a lot in my students. I do see it. The way in which the sort of teaching to the test stuff has so destroyed their sense of discovery and excitement about learning new things. I had a kid say to me, yeah, you gave us books to read, but I don't read books. And I said, do you read your phone? He said, yes. And I said, do you read your computer? Yes. I said, so you just don't read paper? And he looked at me and went, oh. I said, yeah, books. I mean, Nazi Germany, they burned the books. I mean, so actions, I'm waiting for some of these actions to emerge, actions where people send truckloads of books and dump them on DeSantis's lawn, or, sort of different kinds of actions, or they dump a whole lot of books on libraries, and you can't stop it. You can't stop it from coming in. So I don't know if, I feel like the energy right now is just so difficult to navigate. Not only is the weather disturbing, we're getting a nor'easter.
Right.
Yeah.
And everything is.
It's just weird. It's
mm-hmm.
weird. Energy is really weird. It's difficult.
The word that came through my guides here is emergence. So there's an emergence here. But no, as this, and I feel like with that word, what would that mean to you, Chrys? Emergence, like there's an emergence, like there's
something is rising up.
Okay, so rising up, it's rising up, and it's being pushed and prodded to rise up. But no, the difference this time around is we have each other. So we named the groups that are being attacked right now. We have the racial issue going on. We have the women the women's oppression going on, you have the LGBTQ oppression going on, and then you have the education of children being oppressed and manipulated. Those four things going on. Guess who? So again, before we're like, when we're dealing with just the racial issue, right? And you're looking at that. Well, a lot of people can go, well, that's that's not really about me or whatever. So they're not spurred to do anything, right? They feel bad, but they're not spurred to do anything because it's not really affecting their daily life, right? But then you add on the next group, right? So women are being oppressed. So you have the racial issue, and then you have the racial oppression, then you have the women oppression. And so then you're adding to that group of the oppressed. And then pretty soon, then you have the LGBTQ community oppression. And then you're going to start, you don't mess with mama's babies, right? They were lighting the fire under the mamas. Hello. So we have a powerful group if we come together.
Well, but the piece that you just outlined indicates that the only group that's okay are white heterosexual men.
Yeah.
That's it. And they've been pissed for a long time that they haven't been able to get jobs or make a lot of money, I think I mentioned this before. I'm trying to remember this man, Ridgway. His last name is Ridgway. He did a study called Blood in the Face. He put together a documentary and a book, and he studied white supremacy. And in the documentary, he goes into communities in the United States and he interviews them. And these are classic working class, country-oriented people who men who believe they're entitled, and they have to destroy everybody who's of color, female, gay, Jewish, not them, because they firmly believe this country was founded by people like them and that they're entitled to run it. Now, I keep having this thought in my head that what would happen if we interviewed all these people and said, what will the country look like if you're in charge? What will it look like? I want to know. How's it going to work? What's it going to look like? You're not going to be able to sit back on your pickup truck and kick back and say, that's nice. You got a whole country to deal with. So how are you going to do that? And I often wonder if they even imagine anything that's bigger than just their inner circle in terms of, when we watched this insurrection in the Capitol on January 6th, what was the image they had in their heads about how this was going to change?
Right.
They must have thought Trump was going to take hold, but
yeah.
Then what? Did they really think he was going to protect them?
Right.
So we've called this false consciousness for a long time, but it's mind-boggling. I guess I want to be careful right now to go back to spirit.
Go back to spirit.
You guys have been doing an outstanding job of reminding everyone that the worse it gets, the more that this stuff is coming to the surface. Okay. So it works to keep people calm who are listening to you tell the stories and do the predictions and all of that. Keeps people calm. But we have to stay in that energy. We have to stay in that positive energy that says we need to be out in the streets. Being out in the streets does not mean that you're not in love.
That's where I wanted to go with this, Chrys. You're reading my mind. You must be psychic.
No, you are.
Yes. So we are being offered this opportunity to respond instead of react to situations, right? We're being offered an opportunity to respond. However, what's happening here and what we're seeing, because it's like, but we're in an awakened state, and we're seeing these humans as, well, they're having their human experience. We're definitely not in the same frequency here, but they're still having their human experience. And you know, how do we love and lead with love in this situation, and bring awareness to them, but also take back our country, from this crazy.
We're not going to take back our country unless.
But you know what I mean. But like,
unless we learn to love ourselves,
right? So it's about teaching them to love themselves. We can go out and we can line the streets and continue to say what is wrong with their thinking. Women's, we have, stay away from my body, my body, my choice,
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter, all the issues, we can bring that up on our signs. But when you're trying to show a group of people who are on a different channel completely, and bring awareness to loving themselves, bring the issue back around to it. This is an issue within themselves that they need to learn to love themselves and release fear, guilt, all those things inside themselves. What does that look like, Chrys? What would that look like? How do we reach a group of people who live from a space of fear?
I think you're already doing it. I mean, the one thing that's really noticeable about the psychic medium community is that it's growing, and that lots of people are coming out there, and almost everybody, that I see anyway, are talking from that mindset, or from that heart set. Really, it's your heart. They're talking from their hearts. They're saying it's really about love. We need to heal ourselves. I don't think it's an accident that I broke my back and you had your gallbladder out at the same time. We're healing ourselves, right?
Right. It's all
We're doing
connected.
That work, right?
It's all connected.
And you feel really challenged. You try to live your normal life, and suddenly you can't live it the way you were living it.
Exactly.
It was sudden and it was interrupted, and there you are, right? And we both had those moments many times, so there's my cancer moment 3 years ago. Now there's my broken back moment. So it's like, okay, all right. So I can either go sit in a corner and suck my thumb, or I can try and do what I'm doing right now with you and try and pull myself out of that enough to say, what's this here for? What is it here for? So I had a reading. I started to tell you this at a reading on Saturday, and the message was, this broken back was in your soul contract.
It was?
Because I was trying to do too much. I wasn't staying focused on what I'm supposed to be doing now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, yeah. So, okay. So anyway, so that's why that book idea came up.
I think that you chose some gnarly things to set your feet back on track. Falling off a ladder.
That was, yes. Apparently, well, Darlene used to say it all the time. You just want to learn how to fly. Yeah. So when I was in my 20s, I was 20 feet up, and in 2017, I was only 3 feet up. I broke my L2, and this time the chair left me. I literally just sat down in the chair and just went right out. So, and that's L1. So L1 and L2 are having a great time. Anyway, so yeah, you can get caught up in that though. When I was in the hospital last week, The woman in the bed next to me was seriously ill. And this is not the first time this has happened.
Mhm.
The woman in the bed next to me had stage 4 vulva cancer. They had removed 5 tumors from her vagina. She also had Cushing's disease, and she was peeing blood. She's 43.
Oh my God.
And weighed a lot, and was, her way of coping was to talk constantly about it. And anyone who was in the room, she'd tell them about her body. And she was panicked. And then this, you'll get a kick out of this part. She's on the phone, because I can hear all of her conversations. And she says, well, she's been in my room for weeks now. She's just been in my room, and she's just sitting in that chair. And I'm pretty sure that's my grandmother. And she keeps talking about the spirits that's there. So Karen Krasinski calls me, and I said, can you read who she's seeing? And she said, yeah, I can. And I said, let me see if she is willing to do this. So I said to her, would you like to know who that is? And I hear her saying to the phone, oh, my roommate doesn't think I'm crazy. And I said, well, clearly someone is there trying to help you. And she said, yeah, but I don't want to talk to her. So she wouldn't take it up. Karen said to me later, it was her birth angel. And I said, because she needs help. She needs a lot of help. And
yeah, so she didn't want to listen because she didn't want to get the news that she wasn't gonna, she was going to be transitioning sooner than she wanted.
And I think she was transitioning, but yeah, it was 5 days of constant. And and I'm struggling based on what we're just talking about. I'm struggling because I'm feeling like, how can I help her? Right? How can I reach out to her? And at the same time, I'm in agony, right? So I'm laying there going, if I reach out to her, I'm going to have her energy in my soul. And
what did the girl look like?
She was not real tall, very heavy set, dark brown hair. I kept almost looked like she might be a person of color, but really light skinned. Not
yeah, okay. That's who I saw. I just wanted to know. Yeah, she definitely was.
Like a little purple streak in her hair.
Yeah.
And she'd walk by my bed every time she went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
But it was those are those moments when you're confronted with lessons, right? You're sort of sitting here going, I've got some stuff I can help, but I can't, I was back and forth with that, and just trying to be still and say, stay on your path.
Yeah.
Stay clear, heal yourself first. It was one of those, but I couldn't help, because the last time I was in for that length of time, the woman in the bed next to me had less rights. She was there. So, and we did have a connection. Yeah, it is interesting. It's interesting to me how
so the opportunities around us, as we're all, speaking to the whole family here. What opportunities are you all having in regards to you all are aware of the emergence, you're aware of your awakening, you're aware of shift and all that's happening. What opportunities are you being given to kind of spread your wings here? I want you all to think about that. I would love to hear from you. I want to kind of I want to touch back here, Chrys, on our response, our getting out there and doing wild things to bring awareness to this is not okay. We're not trying to blanket that or repress that in any way. reacting in love and responding out of a space of love is always good. It doesn't look like a hug. I always say that. Love doesn't always look like a big old bear hug and a pat on the back. Sometimes it looks like a picket sign and screaming what is right. Right?
Yeah. And sometimes it means you're making a choice to take care of yourself, to love yourself, even though somebody next to you is hurting. Sometimes it's a really hard choice. And it's not always clear, but I think when we're talking
yeah,
about
that's right. I really do like that, Chrys. Can you repeat that?
I don't know if I can or not.
Okay, so sometimes it's making that tough choice that even though the person in the bed next to you is hurting, obviously, that you literally need to put that oxygen mask on yourself first and take care of some of this that you need first before opening up to that.
Well,
and that's okay.
Yeah, it's like clearing, creating a clearing, right? Before you go and dump your stuff somewhere.
And another thing with that, Chrys, is the energy that you bring to the room is healing in itself. It goes out before you. What is that word called? When you walk into the room, it precedes you. Your energy precedes you. And so when you are in there and you're concentrating, you might not say a word for the whole week that you have this person next to you, but your energy is there and making changes within the room and within that other, interchanging with that other person's energy. So you could sit there and just prayerful thought and never say a word, and you've shifted their energy.
Right. Yeah. Right. A couple of things came up when you said that. One is the power of 8. You know, the studies they've done where they take 8 people and have them focus on a particular issue and it can solve some problem thousands of miles away.
Wow. Right?
Because all of this is energy, you know, and what you're referring to is really, it's not just your aura, but it's your toroidal field. You're actually, the more you love yourself, the bigger the energy is that you're putting out. You know, I think that's one of the things that's so powerful about doing the psychic medium readings is when you're doing that work and people feel it. They can feel it when they watch you do that work. They can feel the energy reaching out beyond you. And that's how you're getting the messages, right? You're tapping into that quantum field. You're tapping into what's available to all of us. And the more we love ourselves and the more we open, the more we access it. And so you have to remember that not are you just accessing it for you, but you can actually transmit that energy out beyond you. And that's what I think is so powerful. Oh, I'm about to get a chill. That's what's so powerful about social movements.
Yes.
That's what's so powerful, because people used to debate all the time, and are we doing social movements because of hate or because of love? And almost everybody says because of love. I hate what they're doing, but I want to live in a world of love.
Love.
And so when those movements are out in the streets, it's transforming the energy all over the planet. And the more we do that, the more we speak up to our oppressors, the more we say it's, you know, and what used to happen in the 70s, because I love this stuff, was that people would walk up to police officers or soldiers and put flowers. Right. And, you know, I mean, or they would say, why do you do this? Why are you a soldier? You know, why are you a police officer? What are you doing? You know, and they would literally change people in that moment. But that's the kind of energy that we're being invited into. I think there's a reason this stuff is so big and so pervasive, because we're supposed to see it and we're supposed to say, no, we want to live in a world that's inclusive and full of love.
Inclusive and full of love. Yes. I want to live in a world that is inclusive and full of love. That's another sweatshirt.
Okay. Like you're gonna break the bank here.
I know, no. But we need to write that down because I think that'll be a good seller.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I'm hearing some of the family right now, and that we wrestle with the old narrative, that if you don't live a selfless life, that you are being what's that word? You're being selfish. If you don't live a selfless life, you're being selfish. So I want to address that, because the true meaning of selfless, or where it fits in. So when we talk about loving yourself, and the battle there with a lot of us is that we were ingrained through all kinds of fear and all kinds of other things, that you need to be selfless. So we need to address that, Chrys. How do we change that narrative? How do we make that change? Because that's ingrained in us.
Well, you just did. I think the word that kept coming in when you were saying that was judgment. I'm very struck by, conversations you and I've had, and what I have experienced here, where our instinct is to immediately go to judgment. And I think those are those moments when we think we're being selfless because we want to help somebody be better, but we're not. Selfless is just that. It's when you park her over here and and we've said this before, and we really listen. You be present for someone. The most powerful moments I had last week were because I was having major back spasms and they were extraordinarily painful. So I was screaming and sobbing at the same time. And I was being held, not talked to, not told what to do, held. And that was it. That was all it was. Just hold me. Just say, it's going to be okay. Breathe. It's going to be okay. Right? Those are those moments that are selfless. Those are those moments that are not about, oh, you shouldn't have done this. If you hadn't done this, you wouldn't have had this pain. It's never like that. Our inclination when we're the most insecure about ourselves is to be judgmental about other. So to be really selfless means to park that judgment somewhere else.
Parking the judgment.
That's a symptom.
So it's readjusting the meaning of selfless. Many of us believe that we give and give and give. We give to our family. We do this, we do that, and we give at the cost of ourselves. That is a wrong interpretation. It's a wrong definition of selfless. That is not selfless. Selfless is setting that judgment aside. I love that. So readjusting the true meaning of selfless, and checking that as we step into loving yourself. There's some old narratives out there, you guys, and I know that we need to break some of that down to truly step into selflessness. I mean, to truly step into loving yourself and the true meaning.
Oh, isn't that interesting what you just did? Because it's almost like selfless. The old narrative is like ego. So selfless means take ego out of the mix. Right?
Ooh, yes, 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 yes. Yes. I love that. Oh my goodness. I think we just came across something there. I love it. Okay, so egoless.
That's going in the book.
That's going in the book, guys.
Going in the book.
Okay. All right. So do we have any questions for our higher ups here?
Well, I fired away at you the other day and said Eleanor Roosevelt, mostly because I wanted to hear from people who had been through the kind of, these are people who lived through World War II and Depression and all of that. Like how did they manage it to keep themselves on track?
Okay, so she's saying here,
Oh, is she here?
she's here. She's showing me. It's like if you stop in the moment of the whatever the oppression is at the time, whether it's like the world wars or whatever's coming in at the time, whether it's illness that's taking out a town, or whatever is happening at the time, if you fall under the pressure of it, it will crush you. You will not survive. However, if you pick up a, she's showing me like just picking up a rag and just starting cleaning. So it's taking action. Just the smallest thing, the smallest action keeps you from falling under and being crushed under the pressure of what you see or believe is happening. You still have free will in this. She's showing me free will in this. So you have free will to allow it to just crush you and take you under with it, or to take action and you're rising above. And she's showing me this big boulder coming through and just crush, or you're rising above that big boulder with, just by taking one little action, where you have power over this action. And because she's talking about creating your own reality, and within whatever is happening to the world, to the globe, to your planet, to your home, to your hometown, to your street, with how you are responding, with how you respond to this, right? So you're creating your reality in your response. And so yeah. And so she's taking me back to the word respond, the opportunity to how you will respond with what comes in front of you will create whether you're going to be crushed or whether you're going to fly. So
and you need to respond.
There needs to be response.
She was masterful at the response. She was also masterful at building the collective, because each response becomes part of the collective response. Whether it's small or massive, it's all part of the collective response. No one action is insignificant, because they're all part of the collective.
And lead, be a leader. Even if you're in your own home, be a leader within the circumstance. Again, that's a free will choice. You can choose a narrative that keeps you as a servant to whatever's happening, as someone who is just reacting, or you're going to choose to be a leader and choose how you're going to respond. So servant react or leader respond. Those are your choices.
Servants react, leaders respond. Brilliant. Was there any one thing that she can call on that helped her bring together the Universal Declaration of Human Rights?
My heart space, empathy. We are one. No separation between you and I. Understanding that connection. The human experience, the human experiment. And together we can. Together we can. She said it started in her own home. Something that awakened that, touched her. And it was like a realization. That triggered the knowledge of all that. But it started in her own home, that awakening or awareness. And the realization. It was kind of always there. But there was one instant that really triggered it. Maybe a loss. Did you know about Eleanor more than I do? Did she had a loss, so she lost someone?
Yes. She did not have an easy life, even though she's from a very privileged background.
Okay.
But yeah, she did extraordinary things, and particularly when her husband, who was president, was no longer able to walk, she became his legs.
Okay.
And she did extraordinary things.
And they never had children or anything like that, or yeah. Did she have siblings?
It's not fresh in my mind.
Okay.
When I was in my former job, we had a course called Women in the World, and one of the requirements was that they study the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and that they watch the films about Eleanor Roosevelt's efforts to bring the Universal Declaration of Human Rights together. I went to her home, saw the things that she had hanging on her wall. She was in touch with all of the everybody, all the key people in the world through that. And she brought together people, leaders from all over the planet to do that declaration. And she got a good agreement. But she also, I'm trying to remember the name of the woman, and I should know this off the top of my head, who was told she couldn't sing. This African-American woman, Do you remember this? A very famous, begins with an M, very famous African-American woman.
I'm
singer.
horrible with names.
She was told she couldn't sing in a certain place, so they let her.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Let her sing in front of the Lincoln Memorial, and no, she did extraordinary things, and
but there was something triggered. It was so she's saying something that really that she did amazing things, but something that she's talking about triggered her into that whole true empathic place, that heart space, was something personal that happened. I don't know if she lost like a nephew, or she there was some kind of someone very close to her that was like a nephew, or like that passed. And it even though there's so much, she had experienced so much tragedy and so much stuff in her life, this particular thing just rocked her enough to really, that was a trigger, that was a shifting point for her. She always had it in her, but that's when it really shifted into the depth of the empath. And
her father jumped from a window.
Okay, so father, I'm seeing like a male, so I just thought, is it
survived a fall but died from a seizure.
Okay.
Left her in a depression. Yes.
Okay, so that was it. So it was the dad then. So I just see a male. I'm like, who is this? I wasn't getting a clear connection on that, but
yeah.
Okay. So that was a turning point for her. And that's when she truly stepped into her superpower, is what she's saying.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Eleanor, for coming in and sharing that with us. She's showing, before she's leaving, she wanted to say, she wanted me to tell you this. There's a dark cloak over the United States, over the globe, but she's showing that, there's a dark cloak over us right now, but the cloak is being lifted. We are going to get out of underneath this cloak of kind of
oppression.
The cloak will be lifting. And those who don't see will see. So that gives me hope.
Yeah.
Some are more sensitive to the cloaking. And so they really can't see or maneuver. They really move out of fear. But there's some of you that have the ability to even kind of push the cloak up a little and have awareness and sight. But it's going to get better. It is lifting, she says. So thank you for that. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's especially meaningful for me because we brought her biographer to campus. We read her books. We read, we went to her. I studied her a lot. I mean, it's been quite a few years now, but she was a model. She was an exemplar. She was someone, I remember my mom used to say, because my parents were of her generation, and my mother used to say, oh, I couldn't stand her. But, it was a different time. And Franklin was having an affair with his assistant, and then Eleanor ended up with a partner who was female. And they moved out of each other's houses. And of course, this was in an era where the elite didn't divorce. They just went separate. But she really became a real leader of this country. She became a real voice for change and liberation and kindness and empathy, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was really the pinnacle, I think.
Wow. So, yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that I started to cry when you started bringing her in. It was like, this is just too special, too neat.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was feeling the other day when I said her name. She was like, if anybody knows what this is like, she does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're cleaning it up, guys. We're cleaning it up.
Did you just pull a card?
I asked her to pull some cards here for us. And we're shifting out of this energy of the Five of Cups and the Three of Swords. So there's a lot of deep-seated pain that we are maneuvering out, and guilt. We've an oppression of guilt. We get that put on us. So we're in fear. And then we feel guilt, and then we feel, so we're always under some kind of oppression. Like that's what our oppression looks like here, you guys. The Five of Cups and the Three of Swords. But this is what's happening. We are moving out of it. We're coming in with that feminine energy, that here's the Queen of Cups coming in, powerfully coming in. And then you have the Judgment card and the Chariot, and who is Harriet Tubman bringing in the Chariot.
Harriet. Yeah.
So bringing back balance and the ebb and flow. And the Chariot, which I love coming in there, is that is a uniting. That is bringing us back to the beginning of this whole time. And that is together we can. That is, we are stronger together. And when we come together, that's where we will find victory. So thank you, Harriet Tubman. And thank you. For bringing that in. Okay. Eleanor, thank you for pulling those cards for us. Anyways, love you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us today on our 22nd discussion. Chrys, hugging you gently.
Hugging you back.
And we'll see you all next time. And we are looking forward to your comments and as we continue these discussions. Blessings to you all, and we'll see you all next time.